Welcome to another broadcast of cPanel Live. I'm your host, Jason Nickerson, and today we have an introduction into Wordpress Toolkit for cPanel by TJ Danklefs. TJ is cPanel's product owner for integration and the lead product owner for Wordpress Toolkit on cPanel. We're broadcasting today on Facebook Live, Twitch, and YouTube, and we'll be taking your questions after the presentation. So please start posting your questions in the chats. We also have a survey link where you'll be entered for a chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and some really cool cPanel swag. Wordpress Toolkit for cPanel simplifies WordPress management for web hosting, agencies, and the base end user of WordPress, with features like smart updates, maintenance mode, cloning and staging, and so much more. Let me hand it over to TJ and let's find out more of what the WordPress Toolkit can do for you and your business.
Okay, so for today's demo, we're going to take a look at WordPress Toolkit for cPanel. We're going to show the different interfaces, so you can use this as a cPanel end user, and you can also use this in WHM. We'll take a look at both of those. We'll also take a look at the documentation and how to get started, and the different features and licenses that are available for WordPress Toolkit. But before we jump into all of that, I want to take a quick second to look at some data of the current market for web hosting. So we're using w3techs.com, and they're a pretty good source for finding usage statistics for different types of software in the web hosting industry. And right here on this page, we have the historical yearly trends and usage statistics for content management systems. I want to just really highlight the emphasis of WordPress right now, as well as its year-to-year growth. So we can see it has a 38.9% usage of all sites on the internet. The only thing that actually compares with it is sites that are not using a CMS at all. Just happens to right now be a tie, but we can see that the sites not using a CMS are actually on a decline. And you can infer that then most of those sites or those developers are moving over to use WordPress into the future. We do see a lot of the other common CMSs that we're probably familiar with, but really compared to WordPress, it's still very highly used and it's only increasing more and more. Some other statistics I wanted to take a look at too is some analysis done by Security, who's a security website platform. And here you can see, again, based on all infected websites that they found in 2018, 90% of those were WordPress. And so, again, correlated a little bit to the data that we saw where nearly 40% of those sites online are based on WordPress. Of all the sites online that went through their security platform and had infections, 90% of those were WordPress. So even though it's growing in popularity, we need to make sure we keep in mind that these sites become more and more heavily targeted, and it's even more important to make sure that the security and updates applied to these sites and to their plugins and to their themes continue to happen almost as instantaneous as possible. So we're going to take a look at it today with WordPress Toolkit of how it can help you as a web hosting provider as well as a WordPress user make sure that your sites stay up to date with security and just general updates from core and plugins and themes. Okay, so jumping into the cPanel interface, here's just a kind of a basic interface that I've kind of designed to eliminate all the features except what is required to run WordPress Toolkit on cPanel. We can also see that WordPress Manager is here. So if you are a WordPress Manager user or if you offer it through your web hosting, we're making the transition to WordPress Toolkit. Any users in WordPress Manager will now see this deprecation banner, but they'll also see this link to go to WordPress Toolkit from within WordPress Manager. We do plan to keep both around for maybe a quarter or two to make sure that there's time for those users to migrate and get used to the WordPress Toolkit interface. But in general, it's very easy. Their sites upon install of WordPress Toolkit should get scanned in and be available. All right, so now we're looking at the WordPress Toolkit interface in cPanel. I've got a site already installed just to kind of give you a quick overview of the interface. So across the top here, we can see a couple different tabs. These are going to show me what is installed for my specific site. So I can see all the different plugins that I have installed for this site. I can see which of those plugins are active, which of them are deactive, and if I'd like, I can send them to the garbage and remove them from my installation. From the theme perspective, I can do the same. Of course, I can only have one theme active at a time, so you can see that I have this theme active. It will not let me delete it, but I can start cleaning out some of these others if I'd like. And then the final tab is database. It's using the cPanel's account to create the database just like you would through the database wizard. But back to the dashboard. The dashboard is really your kind of overview of all the features you can start applying to your site. We have things like a direct link to file manager. We have a way of copying the data from one site to another. We can create a clone of this site, and we can create a backup or then restore a backup of the site. Down in the middle, we have some good status updates on what versions we're running. So we can see that I'm on 5.5.3 of WordPress. We can see that plugins are all up to date. My themes are all up to date. These are good signs. These are what we want to see. We can see here, though, that there's a message to check security. So let's take a quick look at what that means. So it's going to perform this website security scan. It's checking it based on a couple of different security measures that are outlined within WordPress Toolkit, and it's going to return this list of things that are already done or things that could be done or should be done. So the already done here is at the bottom in these green check boxes, where the recommended changes are these triangular kind of warning type icons. And just taking a look at these, there's a lot of different types of security measures that are being recommended. And maybe I'm a new user, or maybe I'm not very technical, or I don't quite understand what, HT access is, as an example. Well, these great info blocks here are going to make sure that they explain it well to the novice user so that they understand what's happening by enabling this security measure. So we can take a look at one more here. Enable bot protection. It's going to tell you how it's going to protect your site from bots, how it blocks them, and what all is going to be happening. So these security measures can easily be applied by just doing a kind of a mass selection and then a click of the secure button here at the top. And in the bottom right, you can see that these measures are kind of being applied. The bottom right window that we'll take a look at here now is basically your queue as well as your kind of status of everything that you've been doing with your sites. And so we can see that the security installation was checked, and we can see that these security measures were applied. And I can also then go ahead and clear out this kind of done queue. So another thing within this interface that we're taking a look at is these features across the bottom. And so we have the ability to check for updates, but we already see that my site is up to date in both WordPress plugins and themes. And we can see that we have some auto update settings here. So let's take a look at that. These settings present themselves when you install a site, and this is kind of how you can make your way back to changing them. So we can see that for this current site, we're accepting auto updates for all minor and major updates of the WordPress core, and then we're receiving updates automatically for plugins and themes. So it kind of sounds a little bit risky, right? I could have a very high traffic site, very popular site, my business could depend on it. How do I protect my site from accidentally being updated and broken without me knowing it? And this kind of is where a very important feature of WordPress Toolkit comes in, called Smart Update. Smart Update here is toggled on, but what essentially Smart Update does is at the point of updates being available for your site, it's going to first create a clone of your site that's going to be temporary. It's going to apply, or it's going to first scan and analyze the site for kind of its base settings, what it appears as, how the backend is kind of configured, what is currently working and expected to be working. It's then going to apply those updates to the clone. And then it's going to perform the same analysis again and take a look at how those two different versions might compare. If there's anything, any irregularities, it's going to pop up with a window and provide the user kind of with an area to both analyze the differences, see what maybe changed, see what broke or didn't break, and then make a choice to apply those updates or to discard and revert basically the clone, but your production site stays the same. No updates would then be applied. If they, as the user decide to accept the updates, they then get applied to the production site, and that temporary clone is, of course, still discarded. And we'll run through this here in a second on an older broken site, so I can show you how it works. The next thing here at the bottom, and the last thing on the site card, is maintenance mode. And maintenance mode is exactly what it sounds like. It's going to allow you to just easily toggle for your website a maintenance mode, so that there's a splash screen that comes up when site visitors come. They can see kind of a status of what's going on and know maybe when it's going to be available again. The configuration for maintenance mode, though, is another step in making this an easy and simple task to do as a site admin, because we want to make sure that your efforts aren't spent either trying to create your own maintenance page or to make changes in production to pull down your site because maybe something broke or something got displayed in the store that wasn't ready. We want a quick toggle, and then you can focus on actually fixing the problem. And so maintenance mode here is going to allow you to set up a template. This is going to come out of the box with its own template, but you can customize it as you'd like. And this link would actually take you to cPanel's file manager. Then you can enter information that you want to appear on the screen. So we can give it a title, and we can say, okay, the site's undergoing scheduled maintenance, and maybe provide a reasoning in a second box. And then we can actually set a timer. And this timer will count down on the page, as we'll see here in a second, so that site visitors know when to come back. So I'll go ahead and click OK. We'll save those settings. Up here at the top is an open, and this is going to open the website in a new tab. Again, you can see that maintenance mode is on, so I'll click open. And you can see the maintenance mode template. Again, this is the default one. It's loaded. You can see the timer in nice big letters, and people will know when then they can come back. One thing now, so it's good to look at our site. It looks very healthy, except we see this issues here at the top. And if you have any issues with maybe updates, there's errors in the debug log, or your maintenance mode is turned on, which is the case here, it's going to let you know in this very kind of apparent area. And so we know that, hey, my site's ready. I'm going to go here and check for my issues. Oh wait, I forgot to turn maintenance mode off. So we can go ahead and deactivate maintenance mode now. And our site's back in business. One other thing I mentioned earlier that I do still want to talk about here too is the ability to import websites, WordPress sites specifically, from a different WordPress installer, whether that be WordPress Manager from cPanel or something else. So the scan feature here is what's going to scan your system within your account, and it's going to look for those common WordPress configuration files. And once it finds them, it's going to import that site into WordPress Toolkit. It's going to look just like the same card, and you'll have all those features available. All right, so we can see I have my old site .WordPress Toolkit for cPanel.net. This is an old site that I set up in WordPress Manager. We can see it's on a very old version of WordPress, and we can see that there's both themes and security updates that need to take place as well. But again, this site came just from WordPress Manager. I can go ahead and easily toggle on smart updates for the site so that anything new coming in, we'll get to see them. But we have our main site back here at the bottom, and so I'll go ahead and minimize this top site. And one thing that we haven't talked about yet is the ability to clone. And so running through the clone process here is going to allow me to select a subdomain for my site. So we can call it staging. You can also use an existing domain or subdomain based on what you have configured in your account. And it's going to create a separate database for this one as well. As you can see on the bottom, our progress of copying files and then copying the database, and finally updating configuration files will be occurring. All right, the cloning process is finished. I will click close here. Bottom right corner, we see that WordPress Toolkit was cloned. I'll go ahead and click and exit on those updates. So we can see now that we have a staging.wordpress toolkit for cPanel.net site here available in our site list. And it's going to look exactly the same as the site we based it off of. You'll notice one thing, that the search indexing is turned off automatically. Let's see, we have one update, so it's just letting us know search indexing is off. We can enable things like debugging. So debugging is your common WordPress debugging tools, an easily accessible page here to then turn them on and enable them. Another interesting idea that's probably very valuable for a clone, because this is still a live website, is password protection. So password protection is going to let you configure, you guessed it, a username or password for access to your site. So you can set it to whatever you'd like, just so that you are the only one then available to see the site as it's in its development stages. We also can add a label here at the top just from an organizational perspective. So we can call this staging. And we can also just go ahead and enable smart updates for it too, so that if anything happens to get applied, we'll see it here as well. So that we know both our site that's in production as well as the site we're working on from an update perspective will be ready to go. So that concludes the demo from the cPanel side. Let's take a quick look at WHM. So in WHM, as I mentioned earlier, we have a WordPress Toolkit interface here as well. What this is going to allow you as the reseller or server admin to do is see all the sites on the server, manage them all in kind of a bulk action manner, and be able to troubleshoot or see problems kind of on the rise with your customers' sites. So we can see a lot of sites here. We can see also a lot of different varieties of issues. And so as an example, doesthiswork.net has some different issues available. It's also being debugged at the time, but you can see it's missing some updates. We can take a look at it and we can try to figure out maybe why some of these updates aren't getting applied. But on that note, and I promised it earlier, let's take a look at what happens during a smart update. So here we have an actual smart-updates site. We can see it's kind of like my example site that I imported from WordPress Manager earlier. It's on a very early version of WordPress. It's got a slew of different theme updates that also need to get applied. It's got security problems. So let's kind of see what's going on with this site. Let's first double check our updates so we can see, okay, it's got yes enabled for minor and major updates for WordPress core. It's got updates enabled for plugins and themes. So this check of updates is going to check for everything. Let's run check updates, and we can see then those updates that are ready to go. We can see smart updates here is online and working, and we can see that a restore point is going to get created if we proceed with this action. So I will select all updates, and we're going to click update. And so at the bottom here, we can see the different steps it's going to run through. It's going to clone the website. It's going to analyze the website before applying the update, create a baseline. It's going to update the website by applying all these different updates that are available. It will then run the same type of analysis on the website again, compare the two, and make a decision as to if nothing changed, proceed with updates. If something did change, let the user know what's changed, give them a means to compare it, and then decide how they would like to proceed. All right, a smart update has been complete, and we can see that we have some results to look at. So one of the interesting things with this site is that it was installed on, I think it was 4.0.32 of WordPress core. And it's so old that when trying to use certain plugins with it, it actually just broke the site. So on the left side of this little slider, we actually are looking at basically a broken site. And the smart updates in this case are actually fixing the site because it's giving it the updates it needs. But as you can imagine, in a general context of basically going from one existing site and then updating it to the next version, you may be able to see here different issues that are occurring on the surface of the site that you would like to, as the developer, know what's happening before you make this decision to apply these updates. Additionally, on the right side here, we can see a bunch of different types of sections of things that are checked. So the page title, the HTTP status codes, the PHP errors and warnings and notices, as well as plugin shortcodes. Now in this case, none of those were actually affected except for the status code and the page titles. You can then also kind of see some of the page changes based on these updates getting applied and how things over time on the WordPress side were changed. And so what would be changed in this case. But for the sake of this demo, I'm going to go ahead and just discard this. Maybe I'm not comfortable with these updates. Maybe I want to try a few things first, and we could come back to it later. So we'll see that Smart Updates is not going to be, or will not apply updates to our website, and that the temporary installation, which is the clone, used for testing the update, will be removed. So we'll go ahead and exit out of here. So all changes were discarded, and we can kind of just back out of the update process. All right, so that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this demo. I look forward to your questions. Let us know what you have. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, TJ. That was really great. I've had a chance to demo the product, but I've never seen anything as in-depth as that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
Looking at it from the first time, it was full of simplicity and really easy to use, but as you dig deeper and deeper into it, you really see how powerful it is. So Indeed. We have a ton of questions today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. You guys are very active in the chat. I really appreciate that, and that's why we do this for you. So let's kick it off with a pretty common question that we're going to hear right now is, I have cPanel on my hosting account, but I only see WordPress Manager. How do I install the WordPress Toolkit?
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So, WordPress Toolkit works a lot like WordPress Manager and how it's managed from a hosting perspective. So, as a hosting provider, you would need to install WordPress Toolkit on your cPanel server. And if you're on version 92, you'll see that pretty readily available in WHM when you log in right after upgrade. You can also install it using the WHM Marketplace in WHM. If you're not on 92, there's earlier ways you can get it for supported versions like cPanel 86. If you look at our documentation at docs.cpanel.net. But in the end, if this is a question that's coming from a cPanel user, so maybe you're wanting to get hands-on use out of WordPress Toolkit, you'll need to talk to your hosting provider or explore, who's maybe offering WordPress Toolkit for you to get that kind of access for it.
Great, great. So we have a bunch, so let's move on. And this one's from Thane. Will the staging site double the storage space used by the account, or will it have something that allows for sharing the uploads folder so that too much storage isn't wasted?
Yeah, so the staging will double because we're basically creating a whole separate standalone site. We'll look at ways to continue to optimize this because we know staging is a very, very important feature for everyone. But right now, that is something that we have to take into consideration. So if you're planning to do a lot of staging, make sure you get the right amount of disk space to allow you to do that.
Exactly. Yes, storage is something that's big, especially with that when you're doing staging. So another question is, why are there lock icons on the WordPress Toolkit interface next to features like clone?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good one too. So WordPress Toolkit has a ton of different features, and we showed some of the really important ones today, but there's a lot more still that you could get in and explore. What's important to know about WordPress Toolkit is it has a free version that we refer to as WordPress Toolkit Lite, and then it has a paid version called WordPress Toolkit Deluxe. And the locked icons are going to show up if you're using Lite, as those are deluxe features only.
Right, exactly. And if you haven't seen at the bottom here, right underneath us, there is a banner there, and there is a link to a survey, because we want to get your feedback. We want to find out how you're using WordPress. And so if you click on that link after this, it's really easy. It's go.cpanel.net/4D. And there's some WordPress questions in there, a little bit about yourself, and you'll be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card and some really cool cPanel swag that you can have at your home. So let's move on here. The next question is from Maud. Will Softlicious be replaced by WordPress Toolkit?
Oh, Softaculous.
Oh, Softaculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So again, that kind of goes back to the very first question. It's when we're talking about WordPress Manager, the WordPress installer is going to be up to the hosting provider to decide what they would like to provide and how they'd like to market that. So WordPress Toolkit is an option that is offered through cPanel by cPanel. And so no, it wouldn't directly be replaced necessarily, it wouldn't directly replace Softaculous if it's not the choice by your hosting provider, but WordPress Toolkit is something that we've tested and built in-house in coordination with Plesk, and it's going to have our guarantee that's going to be supported and run efficiently.
And speaking about the WordPress Manager, are we going to be continuing WordPress Manager, or is that have an end of life coming as we move into the WordPress Toolkit?
Yeah, so WordPress Manager falls under a category that we refer to as deprecated, which means we don't plan to make any more improvements to it, and we plan to retire it in the near future. Again, that's undetermined right now because we want to see and make sure everyone feels comfortable with WordPress Toolkit. When you compare WordPress Manager to WordPress Toolkit Lite, Lite has almost double the features that Manager does, and so we're hoping everyone can see that value and they can move over and start using WordPress Toolkit and enjoy the features that it brings to them.
Exactly. It's very robust when it comes to that. It should be a really easy upgrade. Plus, when somebody moves from WordPress Manager to WordPress Toolkit, WordPress Toolkit automatically identifies all the sites that they have in WordPress there. So
yep,
it's going to be very easy for that. Fantastic. Two-Star says, how can I show a WordPress Toolkit menu in the left side menu bar? Do you think he's maybe talking about inside of WordPress itself? Or
that could be, yeah. That's a tough one. There may be, so within cPanel, there are definitely things you can do to create what we refer to as a user session, and that session can be used in a link to take you to any user interface within cPanel. And so, this is an interesting feature I'll probably take note of that we could explore, but right now you would probably need to do some type of custom integration to get it to appear there. But thanks for that question, because that's an interesting thing to think about.
Exactly. Yeah, making it really easy for them in the back end of the WordPress.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Tom B. Can I use this to create a staging site linked to a subdomain?
Yeah, I actually think I saw that one maybe come in as we were demoing, and you may have saw soon after that question, Tom, that the staging or the clones are basically created as subdomains. And it's also worth noting that you can install a WordPress site using WordPress Toolkit on any subdomains within cPanel. So the normal cloning process, it's going to take your primary site, it's going to create a subdomain for it, and then that's going to create your clone. But you could also install a site to that subdomain as well.
Exactly. And the next question comes from Phil. And he's asking the recommended security measures. Where does this recommended list come from?
So that's a great question. And if you are familiar with WordPress Toolkit before it came to cPanel, it currently is still, it's one of Plesk's really great products too. And the Plesk team did a ton of research as they're preparing to launch this on their end to try to understand those common WordPress problems. And so when we talk about lists like security hardening, those are coming from that research that the Plesk team did.
Fantastic. Yeah, I know. There was a lot of research done. A lot of people were asked about it. And those are some really core features, looking at it and going over that. In fact, if you look at our blog, we just did a whole blog about those different security measures and why they were added and what it really benefits you as a WordPress user and as in the hosting state. So let me get back here to our questions, and we've got a question from Anthony. Anthony is asking, is cloning standard or part of the premium package, which I guess would be Deluxe?
Yeah, so cloning and smart updates are part of the Deluxe package out of the features we showed today. So those would definitely be part of the premium as you referred to it.
Right, and Tom has a follow-up here about the staging. Will I be able to push from staging to live after that?
Yeah, that's just one thing we didn't quite have time to show. But next to the clone button in the interface, there's one that says copy data. And that allows you from any site within your WordPress Toolkit interface to copy the data from that site to another one. And so it works, of course, from a clone back to the production version, but you could also use it from a production version to another production version, or whatever you prefer. It kind of keeps that flexibility open for you.
And a question from Vic Rant. When will this be available to current users?
Great question too. So we've done an early launch for some of our cPanel partners, and we're starting to see offerings come up now. And so take a look, do a quick Google search. You may be able to find some offerings if you're looking for them. We also plan to provide a server license for WordPress Toolkit to be available through the cPanel store by the end of the year.
Yeah, people are very excited about this. I can't wait to see what happens once we get it out there in the wild and everybody starts using it. So next we've got, can we use this on a WordPress multi-site, Michael asks.
I may need to follow up on that one. Can't remember where we are on it.
All right, so Michael, we'll check into that and get back to you on that. At the end here, we can give you some contact information if you want to reach out to us and ask us some more questions. And definitely, if we don't get back to you during this, fill out that survey, ask us there, and that will put it on the map and give us a reason to really get back to you and to add that to upcoming feature list.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so the next question is they're unable to find the toolkit. Where can I find it in cPanel? We've kind of addressed that one, that it's not been rolled out to everyone quite yet. Early adopters have it, and it's going to be coming soon with your hosting company. Like probably, yep. They should probably be asking their hosting company too about that.
Yeah, yeah. If you're a cPanel user, let your hosting providers know. Show them that you're interested in it, and I'm sure they'll work with you and work with us and get it provided.
And the next question from Tom again, will I have to contact my server provider to install it in my WHM?
So if you are on an unmanaged server and you kind of have root access, or you have control on the WHM side, it is something that you should be able to install yourself as long as you're on a supported version of cPanel. So that would be cPanel 86 LTS, 90 or 92, which came out just recently. If you go to docs.cpanel.net and search for WordPress Toolkit, it'll include the installation steps for you there.
And then we have another question from Vikrant. Again, can we use it for a multiple WordPress installation? I would say yes, right?
Yeah. So that's one thing where the cPanel offering of WordPress Toolkit is a little bit different from Plesk. So cPanel is just kind of built more around an account than a domain. So your accounts can always have, depending on how your hosting provider depends on or decides to package. It can have multiple domains, and you can also, of course, add subdomains within your cPanel account. So anything within those categories that you have available can be used to install WordPress on with WordPress Toolkit.
Exactly. Jonathan asked us, when is Deluxe going to be available?
That one, yeah, that's kind of the question that keeps coming up, and it's great to see everyone that's interested. It sounds like we need to work really hard to get it out as soon as we can. Again, some large partners are going to start offering it hopefully pretty soon. Some have. If you're looking at it from like you own a server, you're running a server, we'll have the server licenses available by the end of the year, hopefully, in our cPanel store. And if not, talk to your hosting provider, let them know you're interested.
Great. Anthony asks us, there are a lot of options, requirements under the security regarding rewrite levels. Are these cPanel or WordPress suggestions? And does this apply? Do they cover all of the WordPress installs on the WHM? It's only really per site, right? When you go to the security, you can do it
Yes.
globally on things, but you can select it per site, or can you do it globally on all of your sites?
It's still mostly applied to site. If I'm understanding the question correctly, those are coming through WordPress Toolkit, and those are configured directly for the sites. Another way to look at it is each site can have its own configuration, and each account's set of sites. So if you have multiple sites under WordPress Toolkit, you could do a group configuration if you're under the Deluxe license. But at like the WHM level, there's not that type of control really with the security settings.
Of course. Phil asks, as a hosting provider, how does licensing for WordPress Toolkit Deluxe work?
Good question. So the license types that we plan to have soon, or that are currently out there, are based off of a set number of accounts that you would request access for or purchase access for. So you could have a cPanel license for your whole server that maybe has access for 50 accounts, and the WordPress Toolkit license can be set from any number, of course, 1 to 50, for that server itself. So as an example, you could have that 50 account server for cPanel, but you could get a WordPress Toolkit license that only gives access to 20 users, and you, the root controller of the server, would be able to decide which of your users get that access.
Fantastic. Anthony has a question for us. When using cPanel reseller accounts, does the toolkit show the reseller accounts? Root shows all, but the reseller only see their own.
Yes, 100% correct. You got it right perfectly there, Anthony. Couldn't say it better myself.
Perfect. We'll move on to Jonathan, who's asking, how do you uninstall the WordPress manager?
Hey, good question we can answer too. So in WHM, again, this is going to require that you have WHM access to that side of the product. There is a page called, I think it's either install CP add-ons or configure CP add-ons, and CP add-ons is one word. So if you do a search in the left nav of WHM for CP add-ons, you'll find those pages, and in there you can uninstall WordPress Manager.
Wow, this is great, guys. Keep these questions coming. This is
definitely.
We've been getting a lot of activity in our past couple of cPanel lives. I'm glad you guys are paying attention and you're interested in this format. Just keep the questions coming. There's a lot of great questions we have here. So we're going to be moving on now. And the next question is from Anthony. If you install into a subdomain and then elevate to a full domain, does the MySQL transfer from the old Fqdn to the new Fqdn?
That's a fun question. So if I'm understanding it correctly, and what normally would happen within WordPress Toolkit is you're installing to either a subdomain or your primary domain, and it's going to create a database during that installation portion. If you were to copy that into, say, from the subdomain to your full domain or an installation, it's going to migrate all that information through from the database, but it's going to create a new database. I'm not sure, though, if I'm answering that question completely, so maybe we need to follow up, Anthony.
Yes, Anthony, if we didn't answer that, just go ahead and comment again, and we can get to the bottom of that question. So we have a question here from Twitch. How much is the deluxe version going to be?
So we'll be releasing those prices very shortly on our website. I believe it'll be at cpanel.net/WordPress-toolkit. So take a look there. If it's not there yet, it'll be coming soon. And of course, it will be in the cPanel store, like we said, hopefully fairly soon as well.
And I want to remind everybody, if you just joined us, look at the bottom here where we have the banner. We do have a survey you can fill out. You can win a $50 Amazon gift card. some cool cPanel swag just by filling out the survey. Survey does ask you quite a few questions about how you use WordPress. So we want to know how you use WordPress and how we can make this product better for you and your business. So the next question we have is from Chrissy, and is it possible to enable this on a per site basis?
Okay, so making sure I address the question from the right angle, and it kind of depends on what you're doing, Chrissy. So within cPanel, you could have one domain or you could have many. But right now, WordPress Toolkit is accessed through the cPanel interface. And so within that regard, you would have to have the cPanel infrastructure and everything still around it in order to provide WordPress Toolkit access. You couldn't install this on a site that's not provided through cPanel. But again, if you have a different thought, or if I didn't quite answer your question, please reach out through the survey as Jason has mentioned, and we'd be happy to take these questions.
Yeah, I'd like to remind everybody that if you want to register to be notified when the WordPress Toolkit is available in the store, you can just go to cpanel.net and /WordPress-toolkit. You should be able to find that in the navigation as well under upcoming, coming soon. It's on the website now, and you can fill out a form right there to be notified when it goes live in the store. So if you want to have first knowledge of it, then that's where you're going to go. And let me see what we got here with some new questions. And Michael asked us, will a course for the WordPress Toolkit be available in the cPanel University?
So I don't think we have one planned yet, but we're definitely kind of keeping our ears open. We want to know where people may want to know more about the product, where they may need help. So Michael, if you could let us know, are you looking at it from a user standpoint, or is this something you're going to use for yourself or your business? Are you looking at it from a hosting standpoint where you want to know more about how to provide it to developers and users? Let us know, and we'll definitely evaluate that for available training.
Okay, yeah, that's great. I mean, we did have a lot of people just in the on social asking us if we were going to have some kind of certification for even this talk. And this talk was more just announcing it and introducing it out there and getting people to understand what it is and how important it is, and really how great it is. It's going to be a real big asset to a lot of people managing WordPress sites. The next question is another reply from Chrissy. Chrissy is asking, how is access controlled? She means, is it via a feature list, for example?
Oh, yeah, exactly. So upon installing WordPress Toolkit in WHM and Feature Manager, you'll see two new feature items appear. One will be WordPress Toolkit, simply that, and one will be WordPress Toolkit Deluxe. So if you want to provide just light access, you can enable WordPress Toolkit for those users. And if you wanted to provide certain other users or certain users that are maybe buying it through you, Deluxe access, you would enable both WordPress Toolkit and WordPress Toolkit Deluxe in the Feature Manager.
Exactly. And Tusar is asking, is it possible to auto-provision a WordPress installation with a cPanel package?
It is. You'll have to do a little bit of custom work to make that work, but there are command line tools with WordPress Toolkit that you can use to do things like installing a new site, to create clones, to do scans and all that. So a lot of the functionality you see in the interface can be done over command line, and you would just need to create some integrations to be able to do it.
And here's probably a pre-sales question. Nedum is asking, is it possible to try the full features of Deluxe?
So we don't offer any type of trial of WordPress Toolkit Deluxe through cPanel, but that's definitely something up to hosting providers to do if they think that's something that they may be interested for their clients. So again, kind of that similar answer that we've given earlier, reach out to your hosting provider and let them know you're interested in trying it, and maybe y'all could work something out.
And if they're a hosting company, they can reach out to their account manager and set up a demo and get some information there. So
yes.
Anthony has a reply here for us. He said thanks, and he has a new question. He wants to know, does the WordPress Toolkit auto scan the sites, or do we have to have a cron that schedules it?
Right. So WordPress Toolkit, one feature we didn't talk about is the opposite of scan, is it's detach. So there is a way to hide a site installation from within the WordPress Toolkit interface so it does not appear there, but still keep it installed within the user's account. So we don't auto scan on a regular basis because we want to respect those decisions of the users to have those sites hidden if that's what they prefer. But upon WordPress Toolkit installation, it's going to scan those right as part of the initialization process, sorry, and find all sites that are currently installed on the server and under the accounts.
The next question is there a demo available on cPanel.net, which no, there isn't, but there is videos like we're doing right here.
Yeah, that's a good question.
TJ, and I know you've been doing some demos with in Facebook groups. I know some of the hosting companies are doing YouTube videos. So, to get a good idea of how powerful this is, there's a lot of information coming out. So, and the next question is from Michael, and he resells VPSs, which then include a WordPress or Bootstrap site install. But I also want clients to be able to learn as well so they can become better clients. Even a short course that covers the basic install, setting up usage would be great.
Okay. So one thing that Jason did mention is we're seeing a lot of videos come out and marketing material from outside, but also as part of cPanel. So if you're a partner, we have a thing called the Partner Asset Library, and that's a place where you could go to find certain material that may be available that you could show to your users that do quick kind of one process overviews of how to create a clone or how to install a site. And if you find any needs that aren't provided there, please reach out and we can see what we can do to put something else together too.
And we have another question from Twitch from Hello Hosting. Sorry, I might have missed this. Does WordPress Toolkit require a plugin to be installed on the site level? And can we use the toolkit to manage WordPress websites that haven't been built? Example, about 20% of our WordPress sites hosted on non-agency clients, hosting only. So they built with their own plugins and themes without our process.
That's an interesting question. So let's start at the first part. Does it require a plugin to be installed at the site level? Yeah, no, it does not. So WordPress Toolkit is installing WordPress within the cPanel accounts directories. And so that's kind of where it all starts. And it's just then managing those installations through the WordPress Toolkit interface to bring other capabilities to the site and to the management of the site. The second part, could you remind me, Jason, what that was?
Yeah, that was, can we use the toolkit to manage WordPress sites that we haven't built?
That's a tough one.
Yeah, 20% of our WordPress sites hosted are non-agency clients, hosting only. So they built it with their own plugins. So I think what they're probably saying is, can they bring in these sites that they didn't build? Or, I mean, it's pretty easy. If they're on the server, it'll automatically find them, and you can add them to the toolkit.
Yeah, so the only real differentiator here when it comes to the sites is it has to have those common WordPress configuration files that you would see with the WordPress installation. So not any website, built with maybe a different type of platform or CMS would easily or just kind of automatically be imported and usable. But any WordPress site with those common configuration files should get recognized by WordPress Toolkit and be able to be start applying it to the site.
Exactly. And if you have if you want to define that a little better and in a reply to us, maybe we can help you a little more on that. But that's basically how we were seeing that question. Glenn is asking, if I'm managing sites, are there some type of reports I can send to clients or to show what has been done?
There's nothing built in that facilitates that, but that's an interesting perspective for sure. Let us know a little bit more. Are you talking about, are you the site developer? Are you providing like hosting for those site developers? What's your perspective on that, Glenn? And see if we can get a little bit further on what type of report you're looking to send to who.
And Anthony, thank you for all the questions here. We have another question from Anthony. Does the toolkit upgrade itself, or is it part of the WHM upgrade?
Yeah, so Toolkit does upgrade itself. It installs as an RPM, and so whenever a new version is released, you'll get that as soon as it's available. Of course, you can control that process like you like, but we always recommend taking the latest version, especially when it comes to things like WordPress, where we want to make sure everyone stays secure.
And Chrissy says, how does it count how many sites are using Deluxe for license purposes? For example, if I offer a package that includes WordPress Toolkit Deluxe and I have 40 accounts with the feature enabled, but only 5 of the customers who actually use it, will I need to pay 40 licenses or just 5?
You would need to, in that case, in your example, pay 40 for the 40. So what we hope to see is that this is something, Chrissy, it sounds like you're a hosting provider. And so we hope this is something that your clients are interested in, and that would also see the Deluxe features as a paid opportunity. So in that case, we hope that you reach some type of exchange where they're showing interest to you, and you can recoup that, and then they're going to invest in that ownership of having Deluxe available to them.
Exactly. Greg has a question here, and I noticed that you say it can manage existing installations of WordPress. Are there any circumstances which can cause this to break? For instance, we've seen a client create a dozen standalone WordPress installs in the same database, just using a different table prefix. It resulted in a massive MySQL database. Would this cause issues?
That probably would. And with anything, Greg, definitely encourage you to, if you have this on, if you're on cPanel with us already, or if you have a way to back up those WordPress sites and get them onto something like a test server, try them out in WordPress Toolkit first and see how it goes. Because, that's something that we really just can't control. People get a lot of freedom with how they can build their sites, and sometimes things like that can happen.
That's one thing, though, that the WordPress Toolkit is really trying to help out too with hosting, is that to block these security issues that some people don't when they install, and try to make it a lot easier for the user and for the hosting company. So Hello Hosting's come back from Twitch, and they said that we're a marketing agency that builds WordPress sites. Okay, imagine that. Okay, so awesome. but provide managed hosting. So they provide some managed hosting for a majority of our clients. We have selected a few who just host with us, but we often have issues with those sites not being built with proper plugins and hardened.
So we have a select few who host with us, but often have issues with those sites not being built with proper plugins hardening. So WordPress Toolkit does, of course, facilitate the plugins that would be available and the ones provided through WordPress.org. But it also allows users and admins to upload custom plugins and themes. So one thing to keep in mind is how big of a problem that might get for you. One feature in the future that we are evaluating is the ability for the server admin to help kind of control what plugins and themes would get installed or could be installed. So if that maybe would help in your case, Hello Hosting, let us know. If not, let us know too, and we can dig a little deeper.
Okay, yeah, these questions just keep coming. We're going to have to cut it off here. At some point, we're going to have to stop. We can't go for 4 hours, but this is great. Just keep them coming here. So we've got another follow-up from Mode. Is there any troubleshooting feature in error log for the toolkit?
Yes, there is. And so it depends on, I guess, what level you're wanting to troubleshoot, but the answer is yes to both. So we have on the site level, the debugging tools that we showed kind of during the demo, and those can be turned on and then just tracked. And then there is an error log within the WordPress Toolkit installation on cPanel that you can find to also kind of check for things that may not be going as great as they should be. But let us know what you think.
Great. And Boris asks us, if you choose a custom installation path, does the toolkit scan for them, such as Fqdn, new site, WP-admin?
So you would have to, it would have to be after the domain tied to your account. So it starts with what's associated with your cPanel account. And if it detects something there, it will suggest either it will so what happens is it suggests the /WordPress after it. So in this case, it would likely do the same. So if you have a site already existing in this directory, it's going to block you from creating it and make a recommendation of a /WordPress afterwards. And that's really just an indicator that you probably need to evaluate to make sure you don't put it in that place, but it will prevent you from installing it over an existing site.
Greg asks, so if I enable on a plan, whether used or not, it counts towards a license. And that's correct, right?
Correct. Yes. So definitely, for lack of a better word, make sure you plan accordingly of who you'd like to provide access, who's maybe seeked to purchase WordPress Toolkit access or Deluxe access from you, and arrange your packages in that way so that you can offer a free package and offer a Deluxe package. One thing, if I could expand here a little bit too, is Deluxe has ways within those locked icons that we saw earlier for a hosting provider to customize how that end user who maybe is interested in a feature such as cloning could get to their store or get in contact with them to make a deal or work through some type of arrangement to get Deluxe access provided.
Yeah, and Greg also asks, can it be done as an add-on in WHMCS to a plan?
So it's managed through the packages now, but we are looking into this and hope to bring it to WHMCS as an add-on very soon. Likely Q1, Q2 next year is when we would be looking at it.
Exactly. And for those of you who just joined us, make sure to look at the bottom here underneath our lovely faces and use the Go link, go.cpanel.net/4D to fill out the survey. You have the chance to win a $50 Amazon gift card and some really cool cPanel swag. And give us your information about how you use WordPress and what you'd like to see come up in the next couple versions of it. And, just really give your opinion on, what you want to see inside of WordPress Toolkit. And if you want to know more information about when it's coming out, when Deluxe will launch, you can go to cPanel.net/WordPress-Toolkit. And getting back to our questions here, we have a question from Glenn, who currently hosts sites that either I have developed or have come to me for management. I charge for management services, plugins, updates, core, and updates, security checks, etc. It's good to be able to easily produce a report to show my maintenance clients the work that I've done for the month. I have root WHM access.
Oh, okay. I see. This is a response from a question we had earlier from Glenn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thanks, Glenn, for that info. Again, we don't have a way built in right now to kind of facilitate that, but we'll make sure we take it down and put it on kind of the future roadmap to evaluate for sure. Thank you.
And Greg asked, will Cloudflare interfere with the operation of the toolkit potentially?
It's hard to say. So, right, one of the great things about cPanel is it's easy to integrate, and we see a lot of different types of softwares, extensions, plugins get added to it. It's hard to evaluate all of them in terms of compatibility. We are trying to evaluate the ones we think will be the most useful and that we see people pairing with WordPress Toolkit, such as Nginx, which is hopefully coming soon to cPanel. That's definitely something we'll make sure WordPress Toolkit can support. But in regards to Cloudflare, I'm not sure. That's something we'd have to check, or if you have the infrastructure to do it, it's something you could test and let us know as well how it goes.
Okay, Boris wants to follow up with us. If you are a reseller, will the license match the WHM licenses? So 100 for cPanel and 100 for WordPress Toolkit?
So that's a great question. That was a model we considered early, but when we started talking to potential customers, it was feedback that was pretty apparent that they would like to have a little bit more choice in the WordPress Toolkit license. So in your example, Boris, with 100 for your cPanel license, you could specify with what we call the WordPress Toolkit fixed license, any number 1, 5, 10, or increments of 10 after that to assign to the server. I think that answers the question. Hopefully. Let us know if it doesn't.
Okay, questions are slowing down a little bit, so we'll give it a couple more minutes. I want to remind everybody too about cPanel Live. We started this months back, and we've been trying to get them going every month, and we really enjoy connecting with the community and with the users of cPanel. So please go to cPanel.live and subscribe to the email list for notifications of when the next cPanel Live is going to happen, so we can connect on this level. As well, we also have a lot of blogs that we've been writing and that we're constructing now about WordPress. So if you want to visit our blog and find out some more about what cPanel and the WordPress Toolkit can do for you, our latest one is the security hardening, where we really break down what the security measures are. And let's see. Okay, so yeah, Greg wants to let us know that reports are essential. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they are.
We'll definitely look into that.
Yeah, data is essential nowadays. we understand that one.
Paper trail.
So, yep. Okay, so let's do. We got one last question here. Thanks for hanging with us, guys. This has really been great. Boris has a final question, and if you are a reseller,
I think that one's a follow or the duplicate.
Yep, that is a duplicate. Yep, that's a duplicate. Okay. All righty. So does anybody else have one final question for us? If not, we're going to wrap this up. All right. Well, let's call this a wrap. This has really been great, guys. Thank you, TJ, so much. It was a really great to get all that great information about the WordPress Toolkit and really have a deep dive into it. Like I said before, I looked at it, and it's the simplicity of it can can really make you think it's very simple, but it's very powerful indeed.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here. These questions were all great. Love the feedback.
Exactly. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Please follow us on Twitch, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, to find out when the next cPanel Live is happening. And thank you, everybody, for showing up and giving us the great questions. And we'll see you in the next cPanel Live.
Bye.